On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we've got roster additions and schedule updates for OU football. Then we recap OU softball's 2-0 start at the Women's College World Series, and we give you our winners and losers of the weekend. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Sunday, June 4th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of May, that's not right, in the month of June, visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now, recording this early Sunday afternoon. We thought about holding off to see what happened with OU baseball, Ted, but seems like that game has run its course.
Yeah, it's tough. Had a couple of opportunities squandered, and they've got some big ground to make up.
Yeah, so currently down 7-1. We thought it was safe to go ahead and start recording. And there's a lot of OU football stuff to talk about, man.
There is.
A lot came down over these last couple days. Let's start with the roster, right? Let's start with this season. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, just take a moment, say a quick prayer for these young men on the football team as summer workouts have gotten started. That's really all we can do. Ted, is pray for him, right? That's all we can do.
That's right. That's all you could do. And having been there in Schmitty's early tenure, I know that things tend to get cranked up. Like, there's levels to this thing. Last year, entry. This year is going to be a little bit different for those guys in the summer, I'm guessing.
Yeah, especially coming off a 6-7 season.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's going to be you want to go 6-7 again, big dog? Is that what we want? Find a way, get it done.
Rumor is the whole team got recycled on day one, right? I don't know if there's any truth to that, but I guess except for 2 players, everyone kicked out, told to come back, except for 2 guys.
Sounds about right.
Nice start.
That sounds about right. So they'll be better because of it, right? But as guys that went through, it's kind of hard to embrace that in the moment. You're kind of just trying to survive, but we're thinking of you guys. Good luck. Have fun with that. That's really all we can say.
Going to be good. It's going to be a productive summer for those guys.
And we both went through it. We don't feel bad for you. Deal with it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. All right. But what's the best way to put it? The Sooners have added some beef along the defensive front. It was announced the Tennessee transfer DaJon Terry, who is a 6'4", 321-pound large man, will come to Oklahoma, and Utah State transfer Phillip Paea, who is 6'4" and 300 pounds. What do you think, Ted?
Yeah, it's hard to really know. The kid from Tennessee, Terry's got a little bit more production. You can kind of look and see what he's done. He's played in the SEC. He's got great size, 6'4", 320 plus pounds. I'm not by any means suggesting that the kid's going to show up and be an all conference type of player. Just don't know a whole lot about him right now, but I do know this. We need size and we need depth on the interior defensive line, and that is exactly what he provides. A guy that's got production in the SEC at a place like Tennessee and has the size and physical traits that he does, that translates really well to our roster. I don't know. We'll judge whenever we see him on the field and what it looks like and maybe what the ceiling is at that point. But right now, just kind of going off of numbers, the fact that he's got production in a Power 5 conference like the SEC, it looks pretty good on paper.
Right. And, this guy that started his career, talking about Terry, this guy that started his career at Kansas, then has spent the last 2 years at Tennessee, and last season, 16 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, couple sacks. My expectation is not for him to all of a sudden come in and be an all-conference player in the Big 12, right? And that may upset some OU fans to hear that, but that's just that up to this point, he has not shown to be that type of player, right? You would have more production in the SEC. I know the line of scrimmage play in the SEC is better. Don't get me wrong, but you don't only have 2.5 tackles for loss in the SEC and then all of a sudden come into the Big 12 and rack up 2 a game. You know what I mean? So there's going to need to be some growth and development there as far as his technique. Best thing about him, dude, he's old. He's a grown man. You can never have too many large grown men on your defensive line. Just can't. So that's the number one thing for me is like this guy that's played a lot of football. He's coming to OU for one reason, right? He wants to elevate his draft status and go to the league. And let's hope that that's how it goes. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. But he's old. He's an old grown man, and we need some more of that.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. A veteran college football player with years under his belt at 6'4", 320 pounds that has been in big-time strength and conditioning programs is totally different than a true freshman showing up at 6'4", 320 pounds. Right. The body composition is going to typically be a little bit different. Not always, but typically it's going to be. He's been moving a lot of weight in the weight room over the past several years. So he's going to be ready. He's learned technique. Now they're going to tinker with some things, and everywhere has a little bit different way of doing things. And we'll see what happens as far as that's concerned. But the most difficult part of all of the training and bringing a high school kid up to speed has already been done. This is about as plug and play as you're going to get. And yeah, I'm with you on the expectations into things, but the other part of it is sometimes you just don't know. A new opportunity, a chance to perhaps grab a starting job. I'm not suggesting that he all of a sudden is otherworldly, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to suggest that perhaps he has a nice little uptick in production, playing more reps and everything, and in a conference in a schedule that we have that should afford defensive linemen plenty of opportunities to make plays. And don't forget that even last year, as bad as we were defensively, especially early in the year, I think we led the country for a long time in tackles for loss and sacks and stuff like that. And that's a hallmark of what Venables' defenses have been. So I expect our defensive linemen to have plenty of opportunity for production.
Yeah, and maybe Todd Bates and Brent Venables can bring the best out of him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt he's got the size, but yeah, this is a guy that's had 8 tackles for loss and 5 sacks in 4 years of college football. So to expect him to come in and be, rack up like 8 sacks, I just don't think that's realistic. Now I want to make something very clear. I really hope he does that. I hope that happens. That would be an absolute game changer for this football team. But when I look at him as a player, OU needs him to be great at the boring stuff, man. And you got to have some of those guys, especially on the interior of the defensive line, right? Guys that can eat double teams and stone them, right? Guys that hold up really well in the run game. A guy that can collapse the depth of the pocket as a pass rusher. Just a guy that when the O-line walks out there going, damn it, not that guy. I know what that's like. Just a strong dude where you're like, oh, this is not going to be fun. He may not be the best pass rusher. He may not be very good, like elite at anything, but it's not very fun playing a big, strong, old dude snap after snap after snap. It's just not enjoyable. Oklahoma needs him to be one of those guys, right? And his career up to this point, it doesn't say like, hey, this is going to be a game-wrecking defensive tackle, right? But adding the depth it's huge. It's huge because this has been something we've talked a lot about. Like they need more size, more strength, more experience along the interior of that defensive line. And DaJon Terry brings that.
You may be able to think of someone that I can't, but I feel like if he's a legit 6'4", 320 plus pounds, he's the biggest defensive lineman we've had in a long time.
I asked
Phillips, maybe.
Who's the last guy where you went, that guy has the size, that's what we're looking for. Like Perion Winfrey was not an intimidating looking defensive tackle. Now he was twitchy,
wasn't he?
right? He was twitchy, but he was not a guy that had a thick lower half or anything like that. He did some good things, got drafted the whole thing. Don't get me wrong. I can't, Neville Gallimore, but Neville was a little shorter.
Yeah, it's size. He's got great size. I mean, that's kind of the point. For a long time, we've been complaining about the interior defensive line being too small. And that's one of the good things that he does check in the box right away is we just got way bigger on the interior D line. I mean, we barely had anyone that was over 300 pounds previously. And all of a sudden you go to a guy that's 320. Like that's when you're blocking, and I know you've talked about this, you're blocking a guy that's 285 compared to 321. That's a big difference.
You think? And it's going to be. So I asked our buddy Cole Kublik. He's not my number one source for SEC player breakdowns, right? The dude is an absolute film junkie. So ask Cole about Terry, and this is what he sent me. He's fine, not super twitchy, good body to have inside. I'll take it, man.
Yeah.
I'll take it. We need those type of guys. Right now, do you want to have absolute game wreckers of defensive tackles? There's no doubt. But with what we've got right now, with Jordan Kelly and Isaiah Coe, you're kicking Laulu inside. Terry feels like he fits very well in that group. And I expect Terry and Coe to play a pretty similar style, right? Just strong, really hold up well at the point of attack, right? And maybe the production comes. Maybe both of those guys, right? Being able to stay a little fresher, the production jumps because of that. But it seems like Terry automatically, not automatically, he's got to earn it, but I mean, I'd be really surprised if he's not in the 2 deep to start the season with the size and the experience and the strength.
I'd be shocked if he's not. Shocked. They're thin right now on the interior. And if you've got a guy that's got his physical traits and he was to come in and not be on the 2 deep, I'd be shocked by that. Because the overall thing that I can say is this addition makes our defensive roster much better than it was before him. Yeah. Is he an all conference guy? That may be a stretch, but we're better on our defensive roster with him on there. That's without question, much better.
Yeah. I really don't think even if he doesn't have a ton of production, it's you have to start getting guys that look the way that he does.
Like ask around how many people out there, how many schools would want a 6'4", 320-pound SEC defensive lineman that has production in the conference? Every school in the country wants those guys.
Yeah. So we'll see what it ends up looking like in the fall, but Sooners also add Phillip Paea. And first question I had, I played with Stephen Paea in Cleveland. Are these human beings related? Because Stephen Paea is like the strongest human being I ever played football against. He's the guy that did like 50 reps at the NFL Combine. Is there a relationship? Are they related? Are they cousins? I don't know.
Well, I guess I don't know how common the last name is. Maybe it's more common than I know, but I would say like there's got to be some tie to lineage somewhere, right?
I'm going with cousins. I have no idea, but hey, if he's as strong as Stephen Paea, the guy's going to be just fine. But this is a guy that, I mean, let's just be honest, pretty much has no production to speak of in his career. At Michigan, a little bit. At Utah State, tore his ACL in 2022. Was he a 6th-year senior, but he still has 2 years of eligibility left? Guy's old. But I really don't know what to expect from him, right? The size is there, 6'4", 300. It's what you're looking for on the interior, but I don't know. He's kind of a mystery, man.
Yeah, I agree. My expectation is a rotational player that I expect to be able to hold point really well against the run. I don't expect him to be twitchy and, excellent at getting to an edge in the pass rush game. As of right now, I expect a rotational guy on the defensive line where we need big, strong, physical bodies in the interior, and he checks the box on all of that. Like just as a baseline, if he's healthy, if he plays with good pad level, and I expect him to be strong as shit, then I think it helps us on the defensive line. Anything above that, I say, is a massive positive.
In a perfect world, this is how the Phillip Paea situation works out. He becomes an awesome player. He has 2 fantastic seasons at Oklahoma, and he starts a Polynesian defensive tackle pipeline to Oklahoma.
There we go.
In a perfect world, that's how this works out. I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed because, dude, you know as well as I do, you don't want to mess with those poly dudes, man. They're strong, violent. Like we could use a little pipeline, just a little.
I was shocked whenever I saw that he had a torn ACL. That's the first Polynesian player I've ever seen listed on any injury report at all. Just no injuries, strong, dense bones. Like, to me, the perfect world is anytime someone's run a duo or anything, you got a double team that is not going anywhere. It just sits there, anchored.
Yeah, that's my expectation for Terry and for Paea.
Yeah. And that is way more difficult to do than it sounds like. And if you have a couple of guys on the inside that are doing that can anchor down, we're going to be just fine.
Yeah. But overall, it feels like Oklahoma's defense got better this weekend, right?
Without a doubt, 100%. And it, not just that we get better, like, and I know this isn't just this weekend thing, but the tide has turned massively for Oklahoma and bringing in defensive recruits. I know these are portal guys. I know we're not talking about All-American status players that have hit the portal that we're bringing in, but Oklahoma is getting really good defensive players. Our defensive roster today, compared to what it was when Brent Venables took over, I would say is several rungs better than it was at that point.
Yeah. Now it's time to put those pieces together and start playing some better defense.
Correct.
Okay. It's getting near, Ted. we're getting like a faint whiff of the season because we have game times. Game times, baby. Game times for 4 OU games were announced, including the first 3 in the season. Arkansas State is going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff on ESPN. SMU on September 9th. That's going to be a 5 p.m. kickoff on ESPN Plus. The Sooners will take the trip to Tulsa on September 16th. That is going to be a 2:30 kickoff on ESPN or ESPN2. And what I imagine, because that Tulsa turf is the hottest turf on planet Earth, that is going to be an absolute scorcher of a game. And then the Black Friday matchup against TCU there on November 24th was announced to be 11 a.m. on Fox. So that's going to be big noon kickoff there on Fox on Black Friday. Ted, your thoughts?
The 11 a.m. start to the season, not what anyone wanted. I guess there's some games that you're really upset with them being an 11 a.m. There's others you're not. Like Arkansas State isn't necessarily a game that you're like, this should be prime time. But since it's the opener, you wish you had like more lead up, right? Like whether it's a 2:30 kick or a 5 o'clock like the SMU, you wish you had like, this is like the big opening of the season. Let's have some tailgating. Let's have some stuff going on Campus Corner. It sucks that you open the season at 11 a.m. That's not what you want. We're used to it at this point though, right? I mean, it's frustrating with the SEC stuff. Just feels like it's within reach. These 11 a.m. kicks are becoming more and more frustrating. The 5 p.m. with SMU, I think is a great kick time. 2:30 at Tulsa on the turf. Let's pray for some cloud cover there in the middle of September. And then the Black Friday thing, I'm kind of torn on this game. I'm not upset that we're playing on Black Friday. I think that is kind of cool. Now, 11 a.m., I think is interesting. Considering like you have a holiday the day before, does that make 11 a.m. any better than like whenever it's like before Arkansas State, the day before is like a work day and everyone's working late? Like, does that change anything at all?
It makes it better in my mind, right? Just mentally knowing, hey, I got Thanksgiving off, but we got the 11 a.m. coming the next day. I do think
not everyone has Black Friday off though. I mean, that's
true.
Thing. That is a work day.
Yeah, I saw several people react to it like, wow, this is going to be the first OU game I've missed in a long time. I got to work on Black Friday, which that's really, really unfortunate. But when I saw that kick time, I was like, oh boy, that could be a little rough.
Yeah.
Because, and I know, hey, you're on national TV. Fox has emphasized that time slot significantly. Like there's going to be a lot of people watching that game, and hopefully that game's really, really significant.
It may be. That's the thing. It's like that may be like a huge game, and it may be like dud, but who knows?
But Ted, you want to take a guess what my favorite Thanksgiving side is?
Yeah, let's go with green bean casserole.
No, it's wine.
Ah, yeah.
Thanksgiving is a holiday where I like
main entree.
I like to grease the wheels a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So that 7 a.m. wake up the next morning to get down to Norman and to get set up for us to do radio and all that stuff. Don't love it. I'm not going to lie. Don't love it, but we shall overcome. We shall push through. The ones that stand out to me, you get to be in the comfort of the booth. I got to start to embrace the heat now. The second half of that Arkansas State game, going to be hot. Free game in the first half of SMU. It's going to be hot. Yeah. That Tulsa game, that's the brutal one. 2:30 on that turf. If you've never, I went to a camp way back in the day on that turf. I swear it's the hottest surface. It's like the temperature of the sun. It's ridiculous. So I'm just going to start my training now. I'm going to start hydrating now and get mentally prepared for that stretch of games because your boy is going to be sweating.
Man, that 2:30 kick on that turf is going to be bad. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully there's some cloud cover, but yeah, that's typically we're still in the hottest, driest part of the year right there. So yeah, it's going to be one of those where you're trying to look across the turf to the other sideline, and it's waves out there. You got nothing.
Oh, one other thing I want to say about the kick times. I see a lot of people getting mad at the Big 12 or saying something like, oh, thank God we're leaving this conference. Good riddance. Just a reminder, Big 12 doesn't pick the kick times. The TV networks do. They have their draft. They make their selections. They pick the times. Now, of course, the universities, they're trying to lobby, right? No, we want this slot. We want that slot. But the TV networks, ESPN is setting these times. They know people will watch Oklahoma at 11 a.m. That has been proven. Just, I'm not saying that we're going to have a ton of 11 a.m. SEC kickoffs, but ESPN controls all of the SEC's inventory moving forward. So I really don't know how much is going to change.
Oh, hey, you guys are used to 11 a.m. kicks. We'll just keep you guys at 11 a.m. and the rest of the SEC, we'll stay with our afternoon kicks.
I don't know what it's going to look like, but will ESPN and the SEC go, you know what? We're going to do the new guys some solids. We're going to give them some prime time. Yeah, I'm sure the teams that have been in that conference for forever will love that. I'm just saying. Yeah. You're mad at the Big 12. It's an ESPN thing.
Well,
they put Oklahoma on because people watch in those slots.
That's the bad thing about it took the networks forever to figure out that, hey, these 11 a.m. games actually rate really, really well. You know, there's a ton of people that watch. So let's start putting some good names there. Yeah, that was the worst switch in college football television stuff that ever went on. I don't know how you were, but rarely played not a night game. Rarely. Almost all of them were night games. Which is, I mean, it's a totally different feeling than always playing at 11 a.m. Weird.
Yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening. Now, not having any more Fox games moving forward, right? Because they don't have a piece of the SEC, right? And they have really emphasized the big noon kickoff. So maybe there are less 11 a.m.s because
I'm worried
that's
about
not
what the rumor for the early exit was. Some non-conference Big 12 games with Fox, right? I haven't heard much about that, if that's still going to be a thing, but if it is, they're going to be 11 a.m.
So I'm just saying, if your anger has been directed at the Big 12, yeah, they play a small part in it, but your anger should be directed at ESPN and Fox. It's just how the business works. All right, we'll cover the 2024 SEC schedule announcement, all of that. We'll cover that in winners and losers. So let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys the most significant thing that happened this weekend. I thought this was an interesting one from @Lego Jetta, who says the good vibes from all the players coming out of the OU football camp this weekend. It's a great recruiting tool, and we got to see future commits working on their craft with OU coaches. All good things. Been a lot of changes made when it comes to OU football camps and just how Venables and the staff are emphasizing it now, which was not something that was a heavy emphasis under Lincoln Riley. And it seems like they're getting all kinds of big time prospects and getting to see them in person. The QB commits, right? The Hawkins kid, the Sperry kid, they've been there for multiple days. Seems like their emphasis on the camps, it seems like it's paying off.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is a new thing necessarily. I've seen it around the country, but I feel like it's the first time I've seen like highlights, like, you know, a lot of the recruiting networks and stuff are there at the camps filming and stuff. So you get to see like a lot of highlights coming out of it. That seems fairly new for Oklahoma anyways. So that was cool. You get to see some of like the local in-state talent, like that really good wide receiver from Shakota, I think it is. You know, some really good players that you got to get some eyes on and see what they look like. I mean, I know it's like some one-on-one drills, but that's still cool. And I think it's good advertisement for the program, and, you know, get to see the indoor and the high school kids up there in the indoor. I think it's all pretty well done.
Yeah. It seems like it's going well. Now, this other one comes from Aaron Davis, who says the most important thing was desperate for interior size. Venables grabs 2 guys who could play huge roles in the run game. At the very least, they will add competition and depth to that room. I think that's a good point, right? The competition.
Thanks,
piece.
honey. That's good. That's Aaron Davis. That's my wife, maiden name. So appreciate you checking in, honey.
Aaron spelled
awesome.
differently.
Oh, okay.
Aaron with an A.
All right. Yeah.
But I think it was it Halton that tweeted something like motivation or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Understandable. Which
This
I
is
like
big boy
it.
football.
I think we've got some good young guys that have, you know, some pretty decent ceilings. And whenever you got people like, the thing you always get afraid of, which is so crazy to like try and grasp this idea, is like when you get like a big recruit or you get a big name from the transfer portal, there's excitement followed then by, well, who's going to transfer out because of this, right? So it's like this weird thing to try and figure out. And I don't know. I feel like to hear some guys say it's motivation, I think that's a good sign. I think good, healthy competition is only going to make your football team better.
Yeah. Just as an example, I was, you know, Ty Darlington was, I think, the first or second ranked center recruit in the country when we signed them. And I hosted him on his visit and all this stuff. And I never once thought, you know, what the hell? Why are they bringing this guy in? It was, hey, man, this is Oklahoma. If I want to keep starting, I better keep getting better.
Yeah.
I never viewed it as a slight or anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't like, Coach, why are you doing this to me? It was, yeah, their job is to bring the best players they can bring in. And it's my job to do everything I got to do to stay in a starting role. I don't know how anyone would view it any other way than that. Like, you can't, them bringing in talented guys, whether they're old, young, it doesn't matter, man. It's not an indictment on you. It's their job.
It can be an indictment on you if you allow it to be.
That's true. Great way of putting it.
That's the thing. Is like, there's no better feel. Like there's a bad feeling whenever, if you could see the writing on the wall and you know that your performance has left quite a bit to be desired. And so there's been a move, whether it's like junior college guys back in the day, like whenever they started going hunting for junior college players at a position group, it's like everyone knows, okay, like they're saying like, we got to get better at this position group. So whenever that happens, there's a realization, but there's no better feeling than whenever a bunch of people have been brought in to replace you and they sit their ass on the bench and watch your entire career. Like, that is something that's great. And it's motivating. Sometimes it's just happens to be a great wake-up call. There could be times where people just happen to be comfortable in a position because maybe they're not that great, but for whatever reason, the depth behind them, maybe a good young player got hurt, or you know, someone got in trouble, or someone transferred out, and for whatever reason, you've been able to hold on to a starting job, even though you haven't necessarily gotten better and better. like all of a sudden, like that could change the way guys play whenever new guys show up. So I think it's good for your program.
And you got to embrace it.
Yeah.
You got to embrace it. The message for those guys, embrace it. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't say, Coach, why are you doing this? Why don't you love me? No. If you embrace it, maybe you end up with the starts record at your position like me.
There you go.
It can be that way. I mean, it can be that way, but you got to embrace it. You can't be down in the dumps because of it. You use it motivationally, however you got to use it. But hey, it's Oklahoma, man.
Right.
The coaches care about you, but their job is to put the best team on the field as possible.
And it's never going to stop. They're going to continue to add players through the portal. They're going to continue to recruit the best players they can in the country at your position. They're going to continue to coach the guys behind you. They're going to continue to try everything they can to replace you and get better players. And that's just the nature of it. That's how it works. That's at every school. That's at every level of football if you're doing it right.
Yep. Birthday shout outs. Happy 7th birthday to Nikias Hamilton.
Happy 62nd birthday to Rudy Thornton.
And happy 2nd anniversary to Christina and Carrie Bailey. All right, let's talk some softball, baby. But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals and can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, be sure to download the Love's Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with an expanded mobile to go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Hamore.
Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma Breakdown merchandise and is the best place to get your OU and OKC Thunder gear as well. If you want to live your life in buttery soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. That's OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. It's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
And hey, you hungry out there? Well, then head to the garage for hand-smashed patties, butter-toasted buns, and ice-cold beer. The food is fantastic, and it is the perfect spot to watch any big game. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood. All right, football guys talking softball. Good weekend for the Sooners. OU beat Stanford 2-0 in the first game there at the Women's College World Series, and that one was a battle. Then the Sooners smacked Tennessee, ruled them 9-0 in 5 innings. They have won a casual 50 games in a row. And Ted, Jordy Ball is rather good at softball. It was a very productive start to the Women's College World Series for the Sooners.
Yeah, it's been impressive. The Stanford game was like, that's one thing that I think is really interesting about this team, and part of the reason they're so good. They can win a pitcher's duel, a defensive challenge, a low scoring game, or they could win an offensive shootout with the type of offense and home runs and base running that they could throw out there. So they're really good at pretty much any style of play. And you've seen that through the first 2 games. Like Tennessee, I know they weren't able to move any runs across the plate against Jordy Ball, but that is a much heavier offensive team than like a Stanford was. Stanford is, just looking at the stats going into that game, not a lot. I think they had like 20 total home runs, talking to Plank, not a lot of extra base hits. More of a lower scoring defensive, lean on their pitching type of team. Tennessee different, big home run production from them. So to be able to beat those 2 different style teams back to back in the fashion that they did, impressive.
Yeah. And when you look at Jordy Ball, I wouldn't say she had her best stuff against Stanford, But when she was in jams and needed to strike some people out and get some outs, she delivered. Right? What was it? It was a jam in the first, jam in the fourth, jam in the fifth, and came
Her
out of all of
stats
it clean.
with runners in scoring position have to be incredible,
Yeah.
because like you said, got into some jams and then didn't yield anything. Great defense behind her, as always. Like some of those stats for OU's defense, and this is the thing that I always harp on. We talk about pitching nonstop, we talk about offense nonstop, but their defense, insane. What did I see yesterday? Like 0.28 fielding percentage is like by far the best. They had 16 errors in 58 games this year, something like that. Just incredible numbers. And, there's great fielding in softball. It's one of the things that makes it fun to watch. But because of the short bases and how fast things happen, there's actually a lot of errors scored on the scorecard, but not for the Sooners.
Right. And then Jordy Ball was awesome against Tennessee. That Tennessee offense, one of the best in the country. I think it brought the best out of Jordy Ball, right? I thought she was fantastic. And you look at her stats through 2 games, 10 2/3 innings. She's given up 6 hits. She's only walked 2. She's got 14 strikeouts and no earned runs. That'll do.
Yeah. Crazy.
And the Stanford game was much more competitive, and it had everything to do with Stanford putting elite pitching in the circle. Kennedy was fantastic. Now, made her throw a lot of pitches, and she ran out of steam a little bit there late. Jada Coleman delivers with a massive clutch hit, which was the difference in that game.
And just to make a quick point is like, that's another thing that happens with Oklahoma is teams try to do too much. Like that looked like there was going to be a play at the plate. We probably score 1 though. Right. But because you're playing Oklahoma, you're pressing, you try and do too much too fast. Ball goes past the left fielder. We get 2 runs out of it. And at that point, it's kind of over.
Speaking of doing too much, Tennessee's coach, Karen Weekly. I don't know if I'm zagging with this take, Ted, but I believe Karen Weekly is a good coach. And that's why her team is at the Women's College World Series. I believe she thought putting Pickens on the mound would give them the best chance to win, because there's got to be some type of analytic metric that her staff and them were looking at going, hey, what Pickens brings, like OU isn't great at it. But I think they overthought it. I think they overthought it. And I know some Tennessee fans want to say, hey, no. This is some galaxy brain chess move by Weekly to flip the bracket, and that's the best path to the championship series. No. I ain't buying that. I'm just not. I think Weekly thought that this was their best way to have a chance to beat Oklahoma. Sometimes you just got to ignore that and go, yeah, we're going to throw Ashley Rogers. We're going to throw the All-American. We're going to go good on good, and let's see what happens. I don't care what the analytics say. We'll see if our best is good enough. And I think that's where they made a mistake. It was when Pickens took the mound, because all of my Tennessee softball knowledge has come from Plank, right? Mm-hmm. And he's telling me, hey, Rogers, Gottschall, like both of these women can really bring it. I'm like, okay. I'd looked him up, watched a little bit, and then Pickens went on the mound. I was like, who's that? And she was bringing some heat. Don't get me wrong. I was like, okay. But I thought that was a very, very strange decision by Karen Weekly and that staff. And just like you said, Oklahoma's their excellence, they make teams do some weird things. Like you got to do extra. And it seems like it made Tennessee's staff overthink everything and do a little extra. And it was bizarre, man.
Yeah. I honestly just think it's as simple as this. If you're Karen Weekly, you're about to play OU in their own backyard in front of 10,000 plus Sooner fans.
There was some juice in the stadium. I was there.
Juice in the stadium. You're not going to win the game. So we're not going to throw our best pitchers. We're not going to give them the opportunity to see our best pitchers. We're going to take the L. We'll give it a chance. They struggled with some heat against Kennedy and Stanford. We got a girl that can absolutely fire it faster than anyone in the entire tournament, throwing at 76. Like, let's put her out there. Maybe she does something great. I honestly think they're just taking the L. Like, we're going to have to make our way through the losers bracket. We're going to have to play more games. We're going to need our best pitching to do it. I think they said we're taking the L. They're on a 50-game winning streak. We're not winning. We're putting ourselves in the best position to try and be in the championship series. That's honestly what I think they did.
That just goes against everything that you and I ever talk about on here.
I know.
Right. When you apply it to football, right? And OU fans complain about the staff playing one guy over another. What do we always say? Coaches like their jobs. They put the best players that on the field that they think give them the best chance of winning games. That doesn't always mean the most talented, but the player that gives them the best chance. I find it so hard to believe that Karen Weekly looked at it like, yeah, we're going to go with the freshman. She gives us the best chance. Not our two stud pitchers. We're going to try to catch them off guard. I don't know. You may have me convinced, man.
It's the only explanation, because when she took her out, she didn't go to one of the top girls. She went to another freshman that had hardly thrown anything.
And in my brief research, I did not know who any of the next three pitchers were at all.
So that's what I honestly think is they were just taking the L, which, say what you want about it. In the grand scheme of things, it may end up being their best way to try and win the whole thing. Is strange and is I don't know, as hard to swallow as that may be.
I just wonder how she framed it to her team. Because if you're Ashley Rogers, who every softball person I talk to, like she's the first name that gets mentioned when you talk about Tennessee. Like, she's an absolute stud, All-American in the circle. Like, she's who you want. And game was on ABC, national platform. This was the game that everyone was looking forward to when the bracket came out. And you throw your third arm, and then you give up on her the first sign of adversity, which was even weirder. Now, Tiari Jennings, I mean, that was a no-doubter. That's about as early as you'll see a player celebrate a home run. My goodness, She was like one step out of the box.
As soon as it hit the bat, well, and you're throwing gas like that, it don't take much to square one up.
I'm trying to figure out how you would frame that to your team. Like, hey, this is why I'm doing it, because I do not like the message it sends to your team. Like, hey, guys, I don't think we can beat them. So we're not throwing Ashley or we're not throwing Peyton. But if you're in that Tennessee locker room, you're in that lineup going, hey, coach doesn't believe in us. I can't get on board with that, man. That's not the mentality. That's not how, even if you match up with them in the championship series, it's still in the back of your mind. Hey, coach thinks we can't beat this team.
Yeah.
And I hate that, man. I hate it.
I do too. It's I think you, especially in softball, like, it's one thing in baseball if, okay, here we go, it's good on good. It's one thing if you don't throw your ace in that game, because like you can't, like, once you throw your ace in baseball, it's kind of done.
Right.
Right. But in softball, we've seen team after team, year after year, throw their hot pitcher in every single game, right? And they've got a couple of them. So it makes it a little bit harder to swallow. It's like, okay, maybe you go with Ashley Rogers for the first 2 or 3 innings. If you give up some runs and you're behind by a pretty decent margin, maybe you give her the hook a little bit earlier and then start with a little bit different format to try and end out the game. But to straight up throw your hands in the air makes it seem odd. But, the other part is they don't want Oklahoma to get any at-bats against them and to start to dial in on them.
Listen, man, that is going through the losers bracket's way harder. Yeah. It's way harder. You're not guaranteed to see Oklahoma again.
That's right.
That's where I'm not buying the, she wanted to flip the bracket and go that way. No. I think they fudged up. I think they overthought it. I don't know if they were.
That's a big, overthinking it moment.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's where, I would pay money to see the conversation between Weekly and Ashley Rogers when she told her she wasn't giving her the ball against Oklahoma. I mean,
this is the biggest game. This will be the most watched softball game of the year by far. ABC afternoon, 50-game winning streak or whatever it is against what a lot of people think is one of the hotter teams coming in. That would have done huge numbers, and to not get the ball, that could be frustrating for sure.
I can't imagine. No. We're gonna give Pickens the ball. What? I mean, there was also some weird things in the Tennessee game. The Rosin thing with, I don't know, what was that, their 5th pitcher? Who was that? That was strange.
I missed that. What went on there?
I think she used the Rosin and then didn't wipe, which if you use the Rosin, you got to wipe before you. So Rosin straight to ball, which can affect, you can get a lot better spin that way. So but it was hard to decipher what was going on, like being in the stadium.
Gotcha.
But also, Tennessee, you cannot make mistakes against Oklahoma. Karen Weekly didn't give them much of a chance in the first place, not throwing one of the best pitchers, but you can't have 2 outfielders look at each other instead of catching the ball. You can't throw wild pitches. You can't do that stuff against this team.
That's the crazy thing about Oklahoma. They catch a lot of heat nationally about a bunch of things, like the transfer portal stuff and, the game being in their backyard. But the fact of the matter is they do not make mistakes. They do not make errors in the field. They do not make errors running the bases. You have to straight up beat them. They are not going to beat themselves, which is maybe the best trait you can have as a team, is that you'd never beat yourself. That's incredibly difficult to do.
And if you're going to do it, you're probably going to need one of your best pitchers in the circle.
Yes.
So one last thing on softball, and the Sooners will be in action again on Monday afternoon, but I guess it's technically before noon. You know what I mean. But Patty Gasso had a badass quote in the postgame press conference. And she was asked about the 50-game winning streak, and is that something they talk about? Do they care? And she said they don't care at all. And, she said a couple things, and then she ended it with this. It's taking things home that no one can take away. That's what we're about.
Yeah.
That is, put it on a plaque somewhere. That is a badass quote, right? Because and the whole premise was, hey, records get broken all the time. But you win a national championship, no one can take it away from you. And I thought, it's taking things home that no one can take away. That's what we're about. And that's how it ended, too.
Yeah.
I was just like, my God, what a badass this woman is.
Yeah, it's great. The better you are, the more haters you're going to accumulate, right? That are going to follow you around and try and pick at every little thing that you do and try and knock you off of the pedestal. And that's just the nature of the beast. And simple quotes and simple thinking like that is how you never let it get in your way. Awesome.
Yeah. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the weekend. But first,
Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School represents a tradition of educational excellence in Oklahoma City. Grounded in a faith-based education, students prepare to meet their potential with an individualized academic path that strives for success. Bishop McGinnis offers a college prep curriculum that includes 22 AP courses, participation in OSSAA athletics, where they've won over 100 state championships, and numerous clubs and organizations for students to join and grow. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available.
And attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica compares coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Insurica's goal is to help you avoid a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at Insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
Well, you mentioned it earlier, some SEC scheduling winners and losers here for me.
Yeah.
Now, for winner, I had to go with this. I know that a lot of people wanted to play the 9-game conference schedule in the SEC. Well, how about this statistic, Gabe? Now, it's Peter Burns. I did not fact check this myself, but this is from Peter Burns from
Peter
ESPN.
Burns would never lie. He especially, and I like Peter a lot. We've done some radio together. He's the man. He's great, and he's great at what he does. He would never skew something to make it SEC positive. Like never. He would never do that.
Well, this is not SEC positive, but it is something that's interesting. So, did you know that since the NCAA approved 9-game conference schedules in 2006, there has never been a team playing a 9-game conference schedule win a national championship? The Big Ten, Pac-12, and Big 12 haven't won a title since moving to 9 conference games. Meanwhile, the SEC has won 13 titles, and the ACC has won 3. No team since 2006, whenever the 9-game conference schedule was approved, has won a national championship playing a 9-game conference schedule.
How about that?
Yeah, that's now. There's been opportunities, right? was the 9th conference game the reason why some of these teams didn't win a championship? I don't think so. But you got some pretty strong correlation going on, at least.
I do think, first of all, that is very interesting and quite the statistic. Thank you, Peter Burns. We love you. But yeah, the announcement that the SEC is going to eliminate divisions, that teams will play 8 conference games. We know you in Texas joined the conference for that 1 year. It sounds like maybe 2 years at the most. Now they're still going to be required to play a Power 5 non-conference game that season. But it feels like a really good thing for Oklahoma, doesn't it?
It will make the transition a little bit easier. Now, here's the thing, though. I can just as easily give you a way more painful SEC 8-game schedule than I can a 9-game schedule.
Right.
It just depends on how it falls. Now, most likely, all things being equal, you would say that playing 9 games is going to be more difficult than playing 8. Well, that just depends what 8 they give you, right? And what it would look like between the two. But most likely, you feel like, yes, this will make the landing into the SEC a little softer.
So when Greg Sankey was asked about how are they going to do the scheduling, right? He said it's going to be based on fairness and competitive balance, and they're going to prioritize primary and secondary rivalries. And I guess they're looking at the last 10 years or so and how teams have performed. The interesting thing for Oklahoma, right, is clearly when you stack their last 10 years, if you're just looking at winning percentages, OU's going to be up there.
They're like 3rd or 4th, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're talking, they're going to be right there with Bama and Georgia, right? And that's the company they're going to be living in. Does the SEC look at that and say, okay, is it like the NFL? Hey, you were really good. You could get a tougher schedule as a result of that. Or will the SEC look at Oklahoma with that happening in the Big 12? Will they view it differently? If you're an OU fan, you're hoping they view it a little differently. Maybe. I don't know. But we know the one rival is going to be Texas. Another interesting question is like, if they're prioritizing primary rivalries and secondary rivalries, who is OU's second rival? It's got to be A&M or Missouri, right?
Here's the thing, and this is what I've been upset about kind of the whole time. You cannot schedule games if you're going with 8 and you're going with one permanent opponent. You have to throw everything else out. And then you just have to do the rotation to where you play the rest of the conference home and away every 4 years. You just throw it out. You can't start hand picking things after that point, right? Because as soon as you start hand picking, well, then that's whenever you get this big discrepancy in what everyone's schedule looks like. Well, we're doing the 8 games and the permanent opponent, but we're going to honor the fact that this game has taken place. Well, that means that if you're honoring the fact that some of these tough games have taken place and maybe someone else doesn't have those same things, like you're possibly making this schedule way more difficult than you are this schedule. You either have to do it or you don't. And this is exactly what was frustrating me leading up to it, is that you're either going to manipulate schedules or you're not. And by choosing the 8 game, no division, they basically said, we want to manipulate the schedules. That's how I view it.
And we'll see how it goes, right? We don't have to wait that long.
That's my other part of the winning aspect of it, is we're getting the schedule for 24, June 14th. Like, we got our schedule yesterday for the upcoming Big 12 season, and we're already getting the schedule for the 24 season. This is amazing.
Yeah. Now, we're not going to get the dates, right? But on June 14th, we're going to know.
And it's like a selection show style reveal, right?
Yeah. And I texted Jacob Potter from Sooner Vision and said, hey, man, we got to do a show once this drops. Like, we got to do something because the fans are going to want to see this thing. We need to talk about it. Because it's a big deal. It's a big deal knowing who the opponents are going to be in the SEC in year one, right? And that'd be fun to talk about. So we got to do some type of schedule release recap on ESPN Plus, man. We got to do it.
Have to. You kidding me? Like, that's like the easiest content you're ever going to get. That's why one of the things that frustrates the hell out of me about the Big 12 and really college football in general. Like, schedule release stuff, as weird as it is, happens to be like the NFL. They started releasing some of their scheduling stuff, and it's huge content. And the fact that some people just give it away and just release it into the ether without trying to build off of it is strange to me.
Yeah. The one other piece, now that we know, hey, it's going to be an 8-game conference schedule, right? That means OU's got to fill some voids in that 2024 schedule, right? Because right now, Temple and Tulane are currently on the schedule. You take into account the 8 conference games, you're only at 10. You got to fill 2 spots, and one of those, according to SEC rules, is supposed to be a Power 5 or a high independent type team.
Yeah.
And I saw Todd Lisenby put a list out, Barry Trammell put a list out, and it looks like there's about 7 or 8 options. And those options are TCU, Houston, which I think would most likely be a neutral site game at NRG. TCU, Houston, Northwestern, NC State, Duke, Boston College, Washington, and Rutgers.
And these are schools that have open.
These are schools that, when you look at the schedules, it seems like OU and them could make it work. That's how I understood the lists that Lisenby and Trammell put out.
I'd circle that TCU one for sure, because again, it was a rumor that future non-conference inventory was part of the arrangement with Oklahoma and Texas being able to leave the conference early. And there's an opportunity for TCU and Oklahoma, and I know we're playing them this year. You would think more maybe K-State or Baylor or something like that, but there's inventory there for Fox and Oklahoma's exit if that were to be possibly a replacement. I don't know, because the other part of it is, like, Oklahoma's in a position where they have to have this. Like, it's not easy to get Power 5 schools to just say, oh yeah, we'll schedule one of the best programs in college football. Like, especially whenever they know your back is against the wall, like, they've got a massive upper hand on you monetarily here, right? In negotiations.
Yeah. I do think, looking at the list, I think the one coach you could call and be like, hey, let's do this, come to Norman, and you'd be like, yeah, that sounds awesome, is Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
I could see Venables getting on the phone with Fitzgerald and be like, come on, man. Come on, man.
A couple of old 90s backers talking.
Yeah, we'll headbutt each other before the game. It'll be fun, man. Come on.
But he is one of the coaches on here that's under a lot less stress than some of the other schools, right? He ain't going anywhere at Northwestern.
No. He's the best coach they've ever had, and I think they'd be pretty foolish to ever get rid of him. But, yeah, Washington would be awesome. How likely is that?
Tough.
I don't know.
You're going to have to – most likely you're going on the road to a Power 5 somewhere.
Yeah, that's why – and I hate neutral site games, and I know some OU fans have some bad memories when it comes to neutral site games against Houston here in the recent past. But if I had my pick, like, if you got to go on the road, neutral site at NRG against a Houston team that is trying to navigate a new conference and figure some stuff out. We'll see how 2023 goes for him. But I don't know. That feels the best of those choices.
Yeah. I feel like any of those, I don't think I'd have a problem going on the road to any of those. Like, as a fan, as a football team, it's a little bit more difficult, perhaps. Like, you don't want to go on the road anywhere. You'd love to play as many home games as you possibly can, but they're all spots for the most part that I've never been to Northwestern, never been to NC State, Duke, Boston College, or Washington. I wouldn't mind going on the road to see some of those places.
Yeah. Boston College would be cool. I've never been to Boston.
I haven't either. Well, I guess I've kind of been there. whenever you play the Patriots, you don't really. We
You stayed in Rhode Island.
Stayed in Rhode Island, and the Foxborough's not in Boston. It's in a neighborhood somewhere.
Yeah. You're just like, oh, we're here.
Yeah. So, yeah, I've never really been to Boston either.
All right. So you said you had a loser aspect to the SEC thing.
The loser aspect of it, not going with the 9 conference games, is really for fans and monetarily for the teams. You know, someone put it out right away that, you know, going these 2 years without the 9-game conference schedule, which everyone had kind of been thinking about and planning for, that's 8 figures pretty much that every school is leaving on the table, not having that extra that extra game at home in one of those 2 years against a conference opponent. And that's a lot of money. And whenever you look over all of the teams for 2 years, you're replacing some really good games, some really good inventory, and there'll be a handful of good games that are scheduled, but most of it is going to be crap. They're mostly going to be crap filling games that people don't care to watch, and people, I mean, they're going to go because you're handed a slate of home games every year that you can go to, and people love to go to the home games. So they're going to go, but the amount of attention and atmosphere and everything that you're losing out on by hosting what, you know, majority are going to be crappy non-conference games as opposed to high-level competitive in-conference SEC matchups, you're losing out on money, interest, attention, atmosphere, all of the above.
Yeah. And I'm so curious as to how this happened. Do you think Sankey and the leadership in the SEC just thought ESPN would say, yeah, we'll give you more money?
I don't know. Well, Sankey really,
because Sankey, it's
asking for it.
It sounded like Sankey, he was pushing for 9. I kind of think he just assumed everyone would be cool with 9, and that ESPN would say, yeah, we'll give you a little bump if you guys do 9. Did it just not work out the way they thought it was going to work out? I don't know.
Well, it's part of the problem whenever you have what amounts to a roundtable discussion. Like, if you have a group of people that don't have a leader, you don't get shit done ever. People just sit there and bark across the table, and everyone advocates for themselves, which, you know, it's understandable. That's what everyone has been there to do. It's like your AD, your university presidents are going to try and put themselves in the best situation they can. But I don't know how everyone walked away feeling like we've put ourselves in a better situation here. What you've done is continue to hand power to the strongest teams. You've taken money off of your own plate, off your own table, and upset your fans, giving everyone else in college football a ton of fodder to throw your way because it looks like you're avoiding, better competition, tougher path in order to have a better chance of winning a title, which, you know, I understand on one hand, but it's a better chance to win a title right now for 2 teams. For everyone else, all you're doing is taking money off your own plate.
Yeah.
Like, you're giving Alabama and Georgia a better chance. Okay, maybe LSU, maybe one other team. But Vanderbilt, you're not giving yourself a better chance at doing anything. Kentucky, you're not giving yourself a better chance. Nobody is. You're handing Alabama and Georgia a better chance. You're taking money off of your plate.
Something keeps coming up, and there's a pretty easy solution for me. One of the things I keep hearing, they don't want to go to 9 conference games because teams want to get bowl eligible, right? They want to get to that 6th win. First of all, let's just be real. Bowl games that aren't the college football playoff, they ain't what they used to be, okay? Right? They just don't have, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, I still love watching them. I hope they stay around. They don't have the same sizzle they once had. But let's just change the threshold to be bowl eligible. If that is what is holding us up, if that is what is preventing me from seeing OU, Georgia, or Texas A&M, Bama, or whoever, LSU, Arkansas, whatever. If that's what's holding it up, drop it to 5 games. It's that simple. It's that simple. We want to see the good games. So if bowl eligibility, if the 6-win threshold is what's holding you back, they don't mean that much anyways. Just drop the threshold so we get better regular season games when the games do mean a lot.
You're 100% correct. But let me say this. That's a fake talking point. Can you imagine? Think about this. Imagine you are Tennessee. And I can't remember how everyone voted, so whatever. Imagine you're Tennessee. And some teams are holding this up because they want, they feel like it's maybe the difference for them becoming bowl eligible or not. They're taking 8 figures off of your table, $10 million off your table because you want to go to the Duke Mayo Bowl or whatever it may be. You're costing yourself money. I don't even think those teams want it. It costs schools money to go to most bowl games. Whenever it comes down to like travel, hotel, dude, it costs a shit ton of money to move 200 people on the road for a week. It's a losing endeavor. You're taking $10 million off of your own plate just so you can put out a recruiting graphic that says bowl eligible 3 years running. No one gives a shit about that. No, there's not a recruit that is going to come to your school because you've been bowl eligible. They're not stupid. They know what bowls are good and what bowls suck. And that's why I think it's a totally fake talking point. Like I've heard people throw that out there. Well, they want to be bowl eligible. Bullshit. They're giving up $10 million so they can go spend money to go to a horrible bowl game. And everyone else in the conference is like sympathetic to that. Like everyone else that's bowl eligible every year just by being able to go 6-6 or whatever it is like, no, guys, come on. Think about this. We want Vanderbilt to be bowl eligible. Why would they care? Why would anyone care?
I don't know.
It's a total, it has to, am I crazy that it's a total fake talking point?
No, I think there's 2 main reasons. I think this is them saying, hey, ESPN, we want more money for those 9th games. Give us more money. We'll play 8. We told you we'll play 8. We want more money. Yeah, we're 2024. We're going to play 8. How's that make you feel?
Schedule the crappiest games that you possibly can.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a very real part of this. And then
it has to be. That's the only thing that explains it.
It's really the only thing that makes sense. And along with this, and I don't know if this plays that significant of a role, but I do think the members of that conference maybe just want to see how the expanded playoff in 2024 functions, right? Gather some information from that one season, right? That first year where you're still at 8 conference games. Everything's the same for you, right? How's the selection process going to function? Just the mechanics of it all. Like what's it look like? Let's get a baseline of information of how this thing is going to work. And then we can change accordingly. I think that's a small part of it as well, but I do think the main part is the ESPN piece.
Yeah. And the whole playoff thing is it's a talking point that works, right? Because you're saying like, we just don't know. So nobody can really give you a concrete answer, but it's not going to matter. You can't give me a scenario in which like it's going to be some huge difference in a 12-team conference playoff. Like, I guess you could make, like, if you play the 9-game conference, or if you play the 8, you're not going to be able to look at either situation and say, well, we wouldn't have been able to get these teams in and we would have been able to get these teams. You don't know who would have won the game. You don't even know who would have played each other. So how can you say like one way or the other? I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to my winner and loser. But first,
John Vance Auto Group has been serving Oklahomans for 40 years, family owned and operated. They got 9 full service dealerships in Woodward, Miami, and Guthrie. No matter what your vehicle needs are, John Vance Auto Group has you covered. Carry domestic brands such as Ford, Lincoln, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Wagoneer. John Vance Auto Group's goal is to give unequaled service and to exceed customers' expectations in every way, which is why they have their lifetime loyalty program. And here's how it works. Buy a new used car from them. All you have to do is get all of the manufacturer recommended maintenance done at the Vance dealership. And if something goes wrong with the components of your engine, transmission, drive, axle, or transfer unit, they'll cover the repair costs. It's a great deal. You can browse their entire inventory or find the John Vance dealership near you at vanceautogroup.com.
And First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. Make your life easier, people, and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information. All right, for my winner of the weekend, thought about going with the Phoenix Suns. I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not. I like the Frank Vogel hire there. He's a defensive guy. And in fact, I saw this, according to The Athletic, Vogel's been a head coach for 10 seasons, and his defenses have ranked in the top 10 7 times. Right? That's like his thing. So I feel pretty confident about Phoenix's offense with them having Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. If Vogel can get them to be a better defensive team, more cohesive on that end of the floor, could be a good recipe for success. I like the hire.
I like Vogel. From what I know of him, I think that he's done a really good job. Seems like a really intelligent guy. It's just weird to me. It's the same exact guys that just play musical chairs with the same jobs, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you see Monty Williams?
Crazy.
He got $80 million from the Pistons.
It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know, because in football, in college football, it feels like younger guys get chances here and there, right? And now you've got a guy like Dagnall in Oklahoma City, got a chance. Now we operate different than most in the old association, but yeah, it does feel like the NBA, the recycled coach it's way more prevalent. It even feels like it's more prevalent than what we see in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, in the NBA, like I think the head coach in college football. Sorry, head coach in college
Still got
football,
the cough. Are you okay?
Still got the cough, dude. It has not stopped at all.
Have you accepted that it's just part of you now? It will never go away.
The only way I'm going to make it go away is by putting in like the most brutal, heavy breathing workout of all time.
Okay.
And
I just need you right by football season, because I ain't listening to that in my ears all the time during the radio call.
I'm about to blow this, like the whatever fluid or whatever I've got in my lungs. It's about to be gone. I'm about to put myself through the torture chamber.
Just come to the house, sauna steam. We'll basically dry you out till you're near the brink of death, and then you'll be fine.
Then bring me back. I was going to say, like, I think the head coach in college football is by far the most important head coach. Recruiting, culture of the program, like there's so much that goes into it. Like the head coach college football is like the main person of the entire organization. And then like NBA, I feel like the head coach is like the lowest value because let's be honest. And I guess maybe it's not fair whenever you only view it through the championship window. I think there's like a good coach can take a mediocre roster and get better results out of it. But you're not winning a championship in the NBA unless you got the best players. Like you have to start there first. Like you're not going to get there. It doesn't matter who your head coach is.
Yeah. There's a discussion to be had, right, between Michael Malone and Eric Spoelstra.
Right.
But look at the guys that Malone has. And credit to Denver for building that roster the way that they have. But you mentioned, hey, coaching can take you a little ways, right, in the NBA. Spoelstra is probably the best example of what the Heat have done throughout the playoffs.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
Yeah, it is interesting. But my winner of the weekend, the Vegas Golden Knights. It's Stanley Cup Finals time, Ted. I was dialed in on Saturday night. 2-2 game going into the third period. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. Maybe we'll get some overtime. And whoo, Golden Knights put it on them in the third period. At an empty net goal late, and ended up winning 5-2 to take a 1-0 lead in that series. Crowd looked insane. I'm not sure if I love the Golden Knights jerseys or hate them. I still haven't decided. It's just a weird gold. I don't know.
Black, less gold.
More black, less gold. I think that's, yeah, I tend to agree. It was
because it's almost like a puke gold.
Yeah, it's not like a shimmery, like a shiny gold. And maybe it looks better in person. Maybe it just doesn't translate to TV well.
Yeah. It's hard to get, like, gold is hard to get right on a jersey.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a whole lot of gold jerseys out there that you think of. Like, I think the best you can ask for on gold is an outline.
Yeah.
Like,
UCF,
really,
I feel like UCF football has a good gold jersey.
Yeah.
It's just a little brighter. The Golden Knights one,
pukey. Yeah,
it's less pukey.
Like Georgia Tech's got one that's less pukey too.
Yes, Georgia Tech is perfect. Yes, that's the gold I want to see. Golden Knights don't exactly have that, but
there's this almost like a '70s shag carpet gold.
That's perfect. Right. Yes, I couldn't quite pin it, but you've got it. Perfect, nailed it. But there's some awesome moments in that game where you realize just how athletic some of these hockey guys are. Right, Shea Theodore's goal where he like spins and then crosses a dude over, leaves him in the dust, and then rips one for a goal. Mark Stone, like full extension, bats the puck out of the air, then right away just rips one, scores a goal. Like these guys are athletic as hell. It's fun to watch, and I'm not sure people appreciate how athletic they are.
No, I think what's great about it is, whenever you get like immersed in a sport, like, and I think hockey may be the best like vision of it, that like their operating system is going so fast, like that whenever they're engaged and they're like just clipping a puck out of the air, like how fast like they are reacting to what's going on the ice. Like viewing it on TV or from afar, like really you can't do justice with how much is happening mentally, reaction, all of that. It's just incredible to be able to operate at that pace. Like you don't get that anywhere else in daily life. Like to be that focused in on something and to be able to really slow down reality to where you can operate and those small little windows of time and do it and think and react. It's weird because like if you were to ask some of those guys, you watch it on TV, the guy, shoots like a howitzer and someone just puts the stick up. If you were to ask them about it, it's probably a whole conversation that they could think and react and make a decision on it instead of it just being like a reflex. You know what I'm saying? It's wild.
And you also have to constantly remind yourself that they are skating around on thin blades on ice.
Yeah. And
then doing all the other stuff with their hands. So it's a fascinating sport,
Well, there's constantly hanging over your head the fact that you can get smashed in the teeth at any moment by this frozen piece of rubber that's flying around the area at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, you'd be a cageless helmet guy for sure.
I don't know, dude.
I know
as
you.
I view it on
I
TV,
know you.
it's like
open air. You'd be open air, man. I just know it.
I'd be out there like a Navy diver helmet is what I would be in. Just a big metal cage.
What was the Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robert De Niro movie?
Yeah, what was that? That
Where
was
he's
the one
the
I
Navy
was thinking
diver.
about. What's the name of that? Oh
gosh. Master or something?
Master
No?
Diver?
I'm sure. No, don't look it up. Well, I'm sure we'll get all kinds of
us.
tweets like, you guys are idiots. It was called this.
Right.
But yeah, I really enjoy watching playoff hockey, and just Aiden Hill, the goalie from Vegas, had a sick save. And I'm convinced that if hockey was a bigger thing in Oklahoma, I would have been perfect as a goalie. Flexibility, timing, coordination. I would have been size. I'm like the perfect size for an NHL goalie. There's an alternate reality where I'm hockey famous, Ted. I'm convinced. But
hey, that's awesome. I'm
perfect amount of crazy, not too crazy, but crazy enough.
I think you're onto something.
I miss my calling, man.
It's never too late.
Oh, I think it is, my friend.
Yeah, it's too late.
I think you got to get in that game a little earlier, but there was something in this game that led me down a bit of a rabbit hole. There was a lot of shots that went off the post in game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. And I don't know why my mind wandered here, but I was thinking, what's the football equivalent to the puck hitting the post? Because it hits the post and it's like this almost moment and everyone goes, oh, and even you're on your couch, you go, oh.
Is it the deep ball off the fingertips?
So that's the one that came to mind. Like, hey, quarterback just barely overthrows the wide receiver that's got a couple steps right off the fingertips, and everyone in the crowd, oh no.
I think that works because, like in hockey, the shot off the goalpost, it usually takes me like 45 seconds to like try and figure out, wait a second, what just happened there? But in the moment, like in the crowd, you hear the clank and you get the big whoa moment. And the deep ball, it unfolds over such a long time, like especially when you're in the stadium. There's time for everyone to like stand up, wait it out. He's open. There's the throw, and that's got to be it.
I thought of that one, or I thought of run play, hole opens up, everything's perfect, running back's downhill, he pipes it through a crease, and then the safety barely just lunges out. It barely gets a shoe, and it's like, and then the running back always pounds the ground. Like, why? That was, and it's not the same reaction, but it's like, so close reaction. I couldn't decide between the two.
Yeah.
Because it happens faster, right? In the running back, safety barely clipping the shoelaces situation.
It's probably realistically more like the deep ball is almost like whiffing on the open net or something, because you just see it, it's coming, it's a for sure thing, and then you whiff on it. I think it's probably better. The running back one's probably the better, or like a dropped interception or something like that.
That's a good one, like a drop pick. I don't know, drop
like
pick
you
six.
cut on a ball and it's like there, and
inside backer. Breaks on, sees it, breaks on the outside slant. Donk. Nope. Yep. That's a good one. I swear, if someone,
it's there and gone, the touchdown, before you ever even like realized it.
Yeah. I swear, if someone tweets us and is like, it's like a field goal hitting the goalpost, you idiots. No, it's not. Those things are not equivalent in the sports. Like almost scoring a goal and almost making a field goal. Like a goal in hockey is it has such a larger impact on the game than like a field goal in football.
Right. Yep.
So I don't know. Let us know what you think. It was a fun thought exercise that I probably spent way too much time thinking about.
No, that's good. Those are the things that are important in life. That's where you need to
That's
spend
where
your
my
power.
that's where my brain tends to wander. How can I apply this to football?
That's right.
All right, for my loser of the weekend, thought about going with baseball in the state of Oklahoma.
Oof,
Not great.
man.
Oklahoma State,
What the hell happened?
I don't know. And full disclosure, I love Josh Holiday. Now, I love Skip Johnson. You and I, we've had some fun moments with Skip. He's a man. Love that guy. But have Josh Holiday on our SiriusXM show quite a bit. I'm a big fan of his. He's awesome. But their performance in that Stillwater Regional was terrible. Right? At least OU can say, hey, we were on the road in Charlottesville. Like, Oklahoma State, you're sleeping in your own bed. You're playing in your own park. That stadium's amazing.
I think they'd led college baseball in home runs, like best power lineup in the field, perhaps, and just couldn't get the offense going. It's crazy.
But you lose to Oral Roberts, and then season on the line in the elimination game against Dallas Baptist, and they beat you 18-4. You talk about a really tough way for your season in. My goodness, on your own field.
Bad. Now, credit to like Dallas Baptist is a hell of a baseball program. Unfortunately, we play them every year. It's like they're such a brutal team.
Yeah.
You know, it can have the look that they lost to a nobody, but anyone that follows college baseball knows that that's a hell of a program. And ORU's really, really good this year too. But still, like hosting a regional, perhaps one of the better offenses in all of college baseball, and it was just wild, man. Wild.
Yeah. But my loser of the weekend, the Pac-12. This maybe the best way to start this conversation was with a question. Ted, does it kind of feel like the future of the Pac-12 hinges on Colorado and what they want to do?
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Well,
OU and Texas left for the SEC, and then USC and UCLA left for the Big Ten, and now Pac-12, they can't seem to get a TV media rights deal done. So Colorado is looking elsewhere. It looks like they want to come home.
yeah, I don't know who the ultimate blame falls on, but I think everyone has their hand in it. Now,
always blame Larry Scott. That's what I've learned. Whenever you talk about the Pac-12, just blame Larry Scott, and everyone says, yeah, you're right.
Well, you know, a big factor, yeah, you've got conference realignment, OU and Texas leaving the Big 12, you know, which by a strange turn of events is given all of a sudden Pac-12 teams a place for a new home. USC, UCLA bounce into the Big Ten. Like, I think those things are easy to point at, but that's more of symptoms of a larger issue, right? And the larger issue being lack of competitiveness out of you know, the Big 12 and the Pac-12, frankly. And I don't know how you can explore those things for a long time to try and figure out exactly what it is. It just, the timing sucks so horribly for the Pac-12 because they're falling apart whenever they finally are going to have like the most competitive conference that the Pac-12 has had in maybe ever this coming season. And if Colorado says we're going to the Big 12, the whole thing crumbles.
Yeah. And when you look at Colorado's situation, first, the Pac-12 has not been kind to them, right? Other than one good year, I think when they won 10 games, but they'd left. We played them in Norman in 2010, beat the hell out of them. I think it was Halloween night. Now, it was right before they left. So they left in 11. DaJon's their fifth coach since they left. It has not gone well, right, from a football perspective. But a lot of people are saying, well, DaJon is really pushing to get back to the Big 12 because he wants to get back into the state of Texas. And that makes a lot of sense. Right? They have that pipeline of Texas recruits, highly rated Texas recruits to Colorado. That is pretty much dried up. DaJon can change that. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know how many people think Deion Sanders is in it for the long haul at Colorado. So I actually view it from the other side of things. Like DaJon's pushing to get back into the state of Texas, use his fame in that state to get more recruits, win games, get another job. I view it from the Colorado side of things. Leverage DaJon while you got him. Get yourself the best possible situation, right? Secure some more stability for the future. Use him as leverage. He's going to use you as leverage. Use him as leverage. And I think that I think that's fine. If DaJon is using Colorado as a stepping stone to something bigger, fine. I got no problem with Colorado saying, hey, we got DaJon right now. Let's put ourselves in a better spot while we got him. And that's how this feels to me.
Well, I'm really just fascinated how it really got to this point. It's a no-brainer for Colorado. If DaJon's the one pushing it, my question is, how in the hell is DaJon the only person there that can see it? That they've positioned themselves in no man's land in the Pac-12. Like, they're an outpost. They don't belong. Like, it's hard to really tie yourself in geographically with any big recruiting areas out west. Like, your natural home is in the Big 12, where you can try and find a foot in the state of Texas, recruiting wise. Like, it's just so much more natural for you in the Big 12 than it is the Pac-12. It seems like an absolute no-brainer to me. Like, they should be doing everything they can. Like, my guess is they're just waiting for the right time to do it. Can't imagine that they want to be stuck in the Pac-12.
Right. I don't know when an official announcement's going to come. It seems like everyone in the Pac-12 is waiting to see what those numbers are going to look like what Kliavkoff can get done when it comes to a media rights deal. We've been told for a while now that it's coming, and it's still ain't here. So I do think there are some advantages to Colorado coming back, right? Boulder's right next to Denver. Denver's a massive city. That should give you advantages over some of the teams in the Big 12, right? It just should. You should be able to build that into a recruiting advantage for you, especially if DaJon is the guy. And then I think it comes down to distribution, man. The Pac-12, It feels like the streaming component's going to be a big piece of it. The Big 12 is locked in with ESPN and Fox. Your teams are going to be playing like Colorado football. It's going to be on ESPN or ESPN2 or Fox or FS1, whatever, but you're not going to have to pull up the streaming app, right? So that's important, not just for football, but all that stuff being seen by college students across the country, and that gets them thinking, hey, maybe Colorado would be fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you're winning.
I mean, Colorado, I think, has awesome uniforms. They have a beautiful campus with where they're at. I mean, they've got a lot of good things going for them, but I don't know. It has felt for a long time that you have college football, and then you have like what they do out west. And it's like it's been a separate world for a long time. Part of that is like the timing of when their games are. And the other part is they haven't really had anyone nationally competitive. Now, USC, Caleb Williams winning the Heisman, they've got some things going right now. But previous to that, it's been a long time since it felt like anything west of the Colorado Rockies has been relevant in anything happening in college football in a long time. So it's been like a college football and them, and you get a chance to get back into the college football part of it. Like, I know you can say whatever you want about the Big 12, but it feels like it's part of the system at least. And that's a big point.
And also, and this is, depends on DaJon sticking around or not. Part of Deion Sanders has to look at the Big 12 and the coaches in the Big 12 and go, I can out-recruit all of those guys. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean,
I can out-recruit them in Texas.
Yeah.
In their own conference. I can't out-recruit them in Texas playing on the West Coast.
Right. Like I can when you're talking, because you're talking Baylor, Houston, Tech, TCU. There's a massive presence in Texas, right? When it comes to the future of the Big 12, DaJon's got to look at that and go, hey, okay, that's really important. Let me go do my thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope it happens because I think it would be wildly entertaining and very, very interesting.
It feels like it's just a matter of time, doesn't it?
Yeah. That being said, don't want to be dealing with Deion Sanders when it comes to going head to head for some recruits for Oklahoma. Just saying. Now that you got to get the guys, right? You got to win the battles.
Yeah.
He's pretty famous. People know him in that state.
Well, here's the thing. Like right now, he's got the luxury of being able to go around and talk and push what they're doing at Colorado, but he doesn't have any results that are attached to his name yet.
Right.
Like that's going to be a big thing for them. Like if they can go out and like the bar is set incredibly low, like they're not going to have to do a whole lot, but like a good thing is they've got a spotlight on them. The bad thing is they've got a spotlight on them, right? You go a spotlight on, you've got all these big national games, you get your teeth kicked in by a bunch of mediocre football teams. Things could change pretty quickly with what the narrative is on you.
Yeah. Going to be fun to see how it develops over these next couple weeks. On that note, episode 324 in the books. Pretty sure that is the record for the number of times Teddy has said shit on the podcast. Fantastic stuff. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Wednesday. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on 94.7 The Ref. You can hear me on Sirius XM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great start to your week. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.